I can't make any promises.
Well, we pay a lot of money on our water bill. You could put $10 on there if the kids aren't going to get eaten alive. You know, I'm just saying that. I understand some people might not be able to afford the $10, but we also got to do something about our children should have a right to play at the ball field. That's where we have a ball field.
Good discussion. Good. We'll need to talk about amongst the council, Becky. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's about all I can say. Anybody else wishing to speak? You have 5 minutes. Give your name and address for the clerk, please.
Stephen Goff, 108 York Street. I live in front of Cedar Creek Park myself, so I understand the mosquitoes. I ain't really ever done this before. I've listened to you guys' meetings every week, every day, and that I can. I've sat through a few of these, and I'm kind of with this lady. I'm trying to figure out, we don't spray for mosquitoes. We don't have a pool anymore. I moved to this town 9 years ago because of how small it was, tight-knit it was. There's plenty of things to do here. Had plenty of restaurants. I mean, this was a small town with big town feel. This town is garbage. There is nothing left for our children to do. We don't spray for mosquitoes. We let kids run rampant. I've had my brake lines cut on my truck. I've had property damage. I've had to fortify my house with security cameras. I see no cops go through Center Creek Park anymore. I ain't seen one in a year drive by my house. And I keep hearing all this in these meetings that we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that. Man, I did a little research. It didn't take a whole lot of research to figure this out. How much we pay our city employees, but we won't pay our police officers. Just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Our city administrator makes $110,000 plus, and has an assistant. That's a lot of money for two people. I'm not saying he didn't earn the money. I'm just saying we got to start looking at other ways to actually get this money, because I think we pay, what, 4.3% interest in this town, highest in the county. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me that we don't have much here to do. But I've argued with plenty of people in this room on Facebook more than once or twice defending this or that. You can't defend stuff like this. I mean, we're, what, 9,000 strong here? I come from a town of 8,000 that's got 3 times the amount of stuff here. We ain't no county seat. We ain't nobody special. They put the money where it needed to go. I'm just saying, I would really like to see my council give this man the respect that he deserves. That's why I voted for Mike Moss. When I moved here, I loved this town. Absolutely loved it. And in a month, we got public hearings. It wasn't everybody's choice. He might have said what he said. I don't know. I can't speak to that. I don't honestly care if my town goes back to what it's like. We got to do something in this town about getting more police officers paid. That's ridiculous, first of all. The mosquitoes, absolutely, I agree 100%. We can't go outside. How about a pool? We ain't going outside. Can't do it. And I've sprayed my kids. Don't matter. I'm just saying, I want this town to go back to the way it was. I loved it. I really did. This was home the minute I moved here. I would absolutely sell my house for less than what I wanted to get out. That's why I voted for Mike. Because it was great when I was here. It was great when he was mayor. And if that gets back to where I was going, I voted for him again. Don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but I'll take that any day. If one comment is the worst thing that you can find on a man, boy, there's people in this room that ain't saints. I ain't no saint. I ain't no preacher. I ain't cloth, any of that. We all do what we do. We make mistakes. I just want this town to go back to where it was. Mike, and I hope you get that accomplished. I really do. I love living here. Not so much anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else wishing to speak? Please come forward. Give your name and address.
My name is Brandy Castleberry. My address is 29014 in Patience Lane here in Carl Junction. I have been here for 17 years. And I was recently reading Facebook and the comments on a public forum recently, and I was appalled to see the blatant disrespect and disregard toward the women who work in this building still going on. I say still because 2 years ago, while myself was an employee here in Carl Junction, Mr. Moss was using the same rhetoric as he has been heard using recently. At the time, Mr. Moss was running for mayor and seemed to be using his contempt of Mr. Lauber and as his platform. In doing so, he openly disrespected the women who work in this office, as well as speaking to me quite aggressively while I was doing my job. The librarian was also present during this conversation. I personally heard Mr. Moss refer to the women as Steve's harem of employees, as well as making assumptions towards his relationship with employees, which were unfounded. As a citizen of Carl Junction for 17 years, as well as a former employee of the city and a woman, I can only hope that you guys do not take these comments or the disrespect towards these women and the employees of our city lightly. In doing so, I can only hope that you see that this is not just a one-time thing, but a continuous issue, and that you take the next step in the right direction for the sake of our community.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward, give your name and address.
Can a person speak more than once about something else?
No,
Can I show you all my knee?
no. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward. If not, we'll move on. Number 6, discussion of ethics complaint per 110.60, which I'm assuming is the city code.
I believe so.
So is there somebody that needs to be designated, Mr. Talley, to lead this discussion, or what's?
Mayor, I can initiate the discussion and explain to the board, who are members of the personnel committee, that a complaint was filed by Alderman Shanks. What day was it, Alderman? It was last week.
Wednesday last week?
Wednesday of last week. A complaint was filed by Alderman Shanks about the conduct of the mayor. Several allegations were made, several references were made. The code of ethics was referenced. The other codes that we have, including conduct in the workplace, were described. And the complaint was filed as a public record because it was about an elected official, the mayor. I don't know if you've all received that. The Personnel Committee, headed by Roger Spencer, has received it. And I assume, Roger, that other members on your committee have received it.
I don't think any of them have.
Well, it seems to me that being a public record and the origination of the issue that we're to discuss, that you ought to have a copy of that complaint by Mr. Shanks. Would you agree, Mr. Shanks, that the whole council should see what we're talking about?
As far as I know, it's public record now, so
Right.
everybody should have access.
I recommend then that, Mayor, that we take a couple of minute pause so that the clerk or her assistant can make copies for the other members of the board. I think we should have that in front of you.
At this moment, I wish it had been shorter.
Mr. Kelly, should I motion for recess?
Just for a couple, I don't know if Steve exited to make those copies. Maybe, I really don't want to continue this discussion without Steve being present, because he is involved in this process. So I'll take a
Motion for a short recess? So we're gonna do?
Fine. Yeah.
Motion by James Shanks for a short recess, second by Holly Levine. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 6 in the affirmative, 2 absent.
Thank you, Mayor. So we're in recess. So, Mayor, I think it is a fair statement that this complaint raised many issues. Some of them were under the Code of Ethics, some were under other codes which we have in our code book, such as workplace demeanor and conduct. In reviewing this complaint, I was forced to review the Code of Ethics in greater detail. We just passed that not too long ago. It's never been used by this council. The suggestion that there is a violation of the Code of Ethics is a first of its kind for the city. But in the Code of Ethics, there is a technical requirement that a complaint to be advanced must be signed under oath or affirmation. This complaint, as you can see, was not signed under oath, and technically it doesn't raise the Code of Ethics to the level of a complaint under the Code of Ethics. The substance of the complaint, however, raises the same issue under other codes that we have, and whether it be under the Code of Ethics or it be under the other codes, when it involves the mayor, the issue is going to be referred to the Board of Alderman. So the Board of Alderman, after the Personnel Committee first has it, will need to ultimately make a decision as to what is appropriate in response to this complaint. I chose to ignore the fact that it technically wasn't a sworn signature. But I do have a duty, the city attorney has a duty to render an opinion as to its legal sufficiency. And I have to say that for the Code of Ethics only, it is not legally sufficient. There's no other guidance, frankly, but that is one particular requirement of the Code of Ethics. But it doesn't move this along very far because there are other code violations suggested. And as a result of these, I had to self-examine what role should I play in bringing this to the Board of Alderman, the Personnel Committee, and having a due process hearing on the issues that were raised. My own thought is I've got many bosses, Board of Alderman, the mayor, city administrator, and others. I am hopelessly conflicted to prosecute a complaint against the mayor. I don't believe it is in the city's interest that I do so. First, because it is part of my responsibility to work closely with the mayor. And if I did prosecute that complaint, no matter how it turned out, if it did not turn out as some wished it did, my motives, my conduct would also be under scrutiny as to did I diligently prosecute that complaint. I think it is a no-brainer that the city has to have special counsel to conduct this. That is a matter that I discussed with the chairman of the Personnel Committee, and I think we had reached agreement that must be done.
Yes, I've been on the phone with Mr. Talley probably for the last, 3 days, off and on, 3 times today. And the last thing was brought up that we needed outside help. And me and Mr. Talley both agreed on that part of it. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I believe that's the way it needs to go.
Let me say that I spent the better part of today reaching out to local counsel that I thought would be qualified to present this to the board. And there were several that were interested, but could not work it into their schedule or had other reasons they didn't feel like they could do that, do this job. My own feeling was that there was a degree of urgency in bringing this to a conclusion, because we're talking about the mayor, and the mayor is in charge of the city, and his handicap by being under accusation is an important blow to the city. And it needs to be resolved as soon as possible. I also suggested to the mayor that he probably needed private counsel. And I see that Mr. Flashaker is in the audience, or he was a minute ago. Are you here, Mr. Flash? Oh, there you are. And I understand that he will represent the mayor in these matters. I've had a discussion with Mr. Flashaker, and I will say this, that it is incumbent upon the city to show due process to the mayor on these complaints. And for that reason, there needs to be a hearing. There needs to be time for he and his attorney to evaluate these charges in this one complaint. But then the situation became more complicated when the city received 4 more complaints yesterday, essentially complaining of the same thing, but by other individuals employed at the city. And I have a copy of those complaints. Roger, chairman of the personnel board, has a copy of those complaints. I have not shared those complaints with either the mayor or his attorney, but before any hearing can be had, certainly the mayor and his attorney need to be given those complaints and have an opportunity to review and prepare. What can we accomplish tonight? I started to say something and I interrupted myself. I looked for an attorney all day today locally, could not find him, and I eventually, with the blessing of Roger, Personnel Committee, contacted Lauber Municipal Law, particularly Nate Daly of that law firm. They specialize in municipal problems like this, and I asked him to consider serving as the individual on behalf of the city that would present these allegations and in a formal hearing where the mayor had an opportunity to respond to the complaints, etc. And I didn't talk to him till late today. He indicated that he was willing to do it, but he needed his law firm to approve of that, and he was unable to reach them today, and it will be tomorrow before we know that he is actually able to undertake the assignment. I don't have the authority to do it. All I'm doing is recommending that to you all, that we need to hire special counsel to continue this, and Mr. Daly is willing, we think, to do that, and we'll know for sure tomorrow. My wife doesn't want me to mention this, but I also am leaving town tomorrow. But I will stay available until we have until we have a decision by Mr. Dally as to whether or not he is in fact, and then proceed probably to arrange a time with Mr. Fleischaker and the mayor to hold a hearing and give everybody due process. The fact that this may not technically be sufficient for a code of ethics violation really doesn't impact this proceeding at all, because you all are still going to have to make the decision as to how to handle this, what's best to be done. The issue arises right now, what happens in the interim until this issue is finally decided. And my advice already given to the mayor is to avoid contact with any of those individuals who have raised complaints. And that was before the additional 4 complaints were filed. And now I have more individuals that he needs to avoid contact with until the matter is resolved. Our workplace standards require that they be protected and that this alleged conduct not be allowed to continue. We're not doing our job if we don't prevent it from continuing. And so I think what this board can do tonight is set a date for a due process hearing. And knowing that it's going to be a tentative date, because Mr. Fleischaker hasn't seen these complaints. He has a right to see these complaints and to prepare a defense for the mayor. And he may need longer than whatever date you set. But there's not a lot you can accomplish tonight, but that is one thing you can accomplish tentatively. And then you also need to make a decision about business being conducted until this matter is resolved. Is the mayor available? When the mayor is not available, the mayor pro tem needs to take the lead in acting for the city and conducting business. I did have some conversation with Mr. Dally about that particular issue late this afternoon, actually this evening. And his recommendation, and I have to adopt it, is that the mayor pro tem act where there needs to be contact with city employees. And that is my recommendation. But the board can make that decision. So I'm through talking for a while.
Mr. Talley, when do you believe you'll be able to get that information to the other attorney? Is that going to be something you do today, tomorrow, a week from now?
I would like to wait until tomorrow, until we.
He wants them right now.
I understand.
He's chomping at the bit.
I understand, but my concern is this is a very tricky area. We have to protect everybody involved, and we want to protect everybody. And frankly, if Mr. Dally comes on board, as you may be aware, he's had some experience in a neighboring city with workplace issues, and I'm not suggesting he's always right, but but I do put value in his opinion. And I don't think it will be, I think it is worth the wait to be sure that these complaints can be turned over in their present form, and whatever else can be turned over can be given freely to the mayor and mayor's council. I don't think 24 hours delay so we can double check the thinking on this is too much to ask. I apologize for it. I would like to move it forward, but I'm leaving town sometime tomorrow. This is going to be resolved from that standpoint by then. So that's my suggestion.
Roger, did you have a question?
Yeah. Is Mr. Dally gonna get back with you
He said in the morning,
tomorrow?
yes.
Okay.
He said he just had to, he couldn't reach his other principals in his firm, and he needed to do that before he could say, okay. He
Okay.
told me that he was willing to do this, but he needed the okay.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Talley?
Sure.
What's this gonna cost the city?
I can't get mosquito spray for
It's gonna cost the city. I don't know what Mr. Daly's rate is per hour, but it's substantial, substantially more than mine. But this is a very dangerous area of the law. And it is imperative that the city take every precaution it can to avoid exposing you all, the city, everybody in the city, to additional claims of mishandling these claims. And that's what we're trying to do. And yes, it's going to cost the city money. But if it's not handled correctly, the city could lose much more.
And I think, Mr. Talley, I suppose since I levied the complaint, I'll make a short statement here. I believe I spelled out my email. You know, we've mentioned two things tonight that I've made little notes here about: due process and moving forward. And honestly, I couldn't say it any better. When I originally levied this complaint, it was not because I have any animosity towards the mayor. I don't know the mayor. I spoke with him a couple times, and to be frank with you, conversation's been lovely. He's been nothing but considerate to me. I've enjoyed our conversations. I have no ill will towards anybody. But I did recognize the idea that if we don't address things in the correct way, at the correct time, you never really move past it. And I believe this crowd here tonight proves that point. There's some things that have, been kind of festering. It's like a splinter. It festers. It hurts a little bit at the beginning, but you can learn to ignore it. But over time, it just gets infected. And in my mind, at the time I levied the complaint, it was not to get anybody in trouble or have, any media presence, frankly. It was so the city could solve some things, and maybe some old things, long before my time. But we need to get things done, get it correct, get the right signatures where they need to go, and move forward. We need due process, and we need to move forward. And in my mind, at least at the time I levied the complaint, I did not see how this council or the city was really going to be able to move forward, because everything that we did, it could be undermined by the idea that there's no respect or dignity for the employees of the city. And the email, of course, everybody has a copy of it. I kind of laid that out. I see potential pitfalls down the road that I couldn't vote for a new mosquito machine knowing that 6 months from now we may be faced with a major lawsuit we could lose. I find it very difficult to vote on things knowing that's in the background. So I want to move forward, and that's after a lot of consideration, and trust me, it was a lot of consideration, I thought the best thing to do was to do this formally. Of course, you know, the media got involved. It was not my intention. I did not send this directly to the media. I sent it to internal city staff. Tried to follow the rules best I could. Apparently, I didn't sign something, so I didn't do enough research.
It's not under oath. That's
It wasn't under oath, yes. But that was my intention, and I hope we can maintain that focus as a council. This is not a gotcha game. This is not a ha-ha game. It is, we need to have our ducks in a row so that we can be effective going forward. And who those ducks are, I'm indifferent. If the council says, James, we don't like your attitude, you're out of here. I'm gonna keep my free red shirt. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. It's mine. But I will walk out and I'll be happy, as Mr. Goff said, to see the city move forward in a positive way. That is the goal, I hope, is for us to all move forward in a positive way and do what's best for the city. And if it involves me or not, I'm indifferent. I'm completely indifferent. I levied the complaint so that we could put this dog to bed, basically. I want to get things behind us so we can move forward. And so ultimately, whatever that means, I'm indifferent, but I do want us to move forward after this. So we have to set a date. We don't know how long the mayor's attorney will need. I certainly believe he should have as much time as he needs. Maybe we should wait until we get some feedback from him before we set a date. I don't know. It'd be hard for me to just pick a date at random.
There's no magic in setting a date. I mean, I suggested that, but very realistically, we don't know. And Mr. Fleischecker has not seen the charges other than the, I believe you've seen the 2-page complaint that, what you call it? And he has no idea how much time he's going to need to deal with this on behalf of his client.
Mike,
Yes.
can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Why don't you find out if the city's gonna employ Nate, and then Nate and I can get together and try to figure out the time frame and come back to you.
I think that's wise, yes. I don't know if you all heard that. Did you all hear that? The suggestion was that once we decide that Nate is actually going to represent the city in this matter, that he contact Mr. Fleischecker and work that detail out. But of course, Nate will have to come back and schedule that with you all. And I don't mean to suggest that I'm bowing out of this process. I just don't feel like I should be the one challenging the mayor. I work with the mayor. I served the mayor his first term in office. I value that history with the mayor, and I don't think I should be leading this charge.
I certainly can agree with that. I mean, this is not about putting people in awkward positions or being uncomfortable or even putting yourself in maybe another ethical situation. This is not the goal here. Because as you said, while we're discussing this, we're not discussing a whole lot of other things. So I understand that. Special counsel's fine. Will the council receive a copy of these other complaints, or is that just exclusive for the special prosecutor?
I need to have that discussion, and that's I'm reluctant to just spread those out. I think there's danger in doing that because I don't want to disrespect the people that lodge those complaints, and that's where I would appreciate some additional counsel by Mr. Daly, who has recently been down this same road. Actually, I went down a similar road back in the 80s with the city of Joplin when we had a recall of 5 members of the 9-member city council, but it did not involve these workplace charges. It involved other issues. I've seen chaos. We don't want chaos here. And so I defer.
So it sounds like I'm constrained a little bit, Mr. Talley, in what I can do then to fulfill my duties as mayor.
As I say, the recommendation came from Mr. Talley, and after he did that, I think he was right. These complaints, I think it is in your interest and the city's interest that there be a period of pause until this issue is resolved in some fashion. And that will limit you and tie your hands there. And the code says, in your absence, the mayor pro tem fulfills the duties of the mayor. I think that's where we're at with some of the duties that you have. Not leading this board at this meeting. I don't see that as necessary. It is the interaction in the workplace that the issues have been raised. And I don't care to repeat the phraseology that I heard somebody already repeat up here, or maybe it was from the podium in public forum. But that said, that phrase is the issue, and it involves the office, and that's the workplace. And I think the mayor pro tem probably should be functioning there until we get this resolved.
So in other words, you say she needs to sign the checks and give orders to the police department and to the city administrator? Because I'm not even authorized right now to sign checks.
But you're touching on things on areas that you may not be in the workplace causing the issues that we're talking about. Signing checks, I don't know if that's involves interaction with the staff, and probably does, I guess.
So I can't even come in and check my emails then.
No, I am not saying that, Mayor. What I'm saying is that interaction ought to be limited and avoided to the extent you can.
Okay, thank you.
Is the mayor aware of who the other complaints are?
No.
Okay, so he
No.
would struggle to avoid people he doesn't even know who filed, right? So that's why his duties would be kind of, iffy. We don't know if it, because he doesn't even know who's complaining, so.
And I'm hoping that particular ambiguity is resolved when Mr. Daly comes on board, because I believe he can address that. And I don't know whether it will be by disclosing or not disclosing, frankly. But I would like his input on that important question.
So is this end of the discussion, or do we have anything else to say?
I'm talked out. I'm actually exhausted from spent on this issue.
Better get you a drink of water.
Yeah, I need to do that.
If there's no further discussion on this issue, we'll move on to ordinances. Number 7, ordinance amending chapter 240, Parks and Recreation.
put this on first reading.
Second.
Motion to put this on first reading by Carol Wolford, second by James Shanks. Will the clerk read the title of the ordinance, please?
An ordinance amending Title II Public Health, Safety, and Welfare, Chapter 240, Parks and Recreation, Article 1 in general by amending Section 240.030 hours to prohibit parking vehicles in public parks when parks are closed and to authorize towing any vehicle left in a public park while the park is closed.
Any discussion, council?
Yeah, I have a question. Yes, ma'am. I understand they keep the parks clear and stuff like that, but I think maybe a violation or a ticket, maybe the first time would be better, because some people don't know don't know these rules. And, you know, they may have had to park there and go with someone else to something. I don't think that we should just go tow the car without giving them a warning or something first.
May I, Mayor?
Yes, Mister.
I don't know that I have a complete answer, but I do know that when I drafted this at the police department's request, that I recommended that signs be put up indicating the possibility of being towed. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
Chief?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the intent, is it?
Yeah, it should be. I mean, I've talked to the city administrator also, but yes, it should be posted with the rules and violations and what will happen if they violate those rules.
The handicap parking rules allow towing, but it also requires those signs to be there. And it's not a complete answer, but it's at least some notice. And I would hope there'll be no towing until the signs do get up.
Right, yeah, definitely.
Thank you. That's
Chief,
all.
has there been an issue that you want to implement this now?
There's an issue downtown at Memorial Park. There is a resident that has several vehicles, and they say that they can't fit them all on their property, so they've been parking them on the park lot, which they're there all day, all night. Sometimes if there's any events, the plant sale and stuff like that, then that would be interfering with that.
We did change the wording on that from shall be towed to may be towed. Without the officer's discretion on that.
My one concern would be, just off the top of my head, I mean, I live close to Center Creek Park, and I occasionally see people park their cars there overnight, and it's not secure, I don't like it. I would like to see that removed. That being said, if you go over to Briarbrook, the golf course parking lot intersects with the park parking lot, and there's not a real clear defined line there. I happen to know the golf pro there, and he doesn't care if people park overnight in his parking lot, but it's not a very, I mean, we need to have it marked or something. I mean, if you're in the park side, you can get towed. If you're on the golf course side, you won't be towed, theoretically. That would be the only issue that comes to my mind. But again, proper signage. Good one.
I wanted to add that to the conversation, but Chief, you need to be talking.
Anything else on discussion? I'd like to move this ordinance forward.
Move it on to the second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion to put this motion on second reading by title only by Roger Spencer, second by James Shanks. Will the clerk read the title again, please?
An ordinance amending Title II Public Health, Safety, and Welfare, Chapter 240, Parks and Recreation, Article 1 in general by amending Section 240.030 hours to prohibit parking vehicles in public parks when parks are closed and to authorize towing any vehicle left in a public park while the park is closed.
Is the Codes Committee recommending this?
Yes.
Okay, we need a vote to go on to a
Make a motion, we can put it on final passage.
Second.
motion by Roger Spencer to put it on final passage, second by Carol Wolford. All those in favor, this is a hand vote to go to a roll call vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. In the affirmative, looks like 6 in the affirmative and 2 absent. Please go to the roll call vote now.
Do you want a roll call or electronic?
Electronic, but I said, so will the clerk do a roll call, please?
Carol Wolford,
Yes.
Holly Levine,
Yes.
James Shanks,
Yes.
Bob McAfee,
Yes.
Anita Francis,
Yes.
Roger Spencer,
Yes.
Walter Hayes, David Fowler.
Ordinance number
2513.
Next ordinance, another chapter 240 on Parks and Recreation. This is on Lakeside Park about the fishing.
Make a motion to put it on first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer to put this on first reading by title only, second by Carol Wolford. Will the clerk read the title, please?
An ordinance amending Title II, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare, Chapter 240, Parks and Recreation, Article 2, Lakeside Park, by amending Section 240.170, Fishing Regulations for Lakeside Park, to allow catch and release fishing only, and to prohibit harvesting fish in Lakeside Park.
Any discussion, council?
What brought about this change?
We had several complaints from residents in that area that people were hauling buckets of fish out of there, their language. I was then contacted by a conservation agent that suggested that if that was to continue happening, it would basically kill off the ponds, and that we needed to have a catch and release policy in place instead of using creel limits or catch limits, that type of thing.
Any other discussion, council?
What kind of fish are in that pond? I mean, are people trying to eat those fish?
Where's Jay at?
Is that it?
You think they eat the mosquitoes at least?
What kind of fish are in there?
Perch, bass, crappie, catfish.
Little everything.
So we're gonna move on, council?
I make a motion to put it on second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion to put this on second reading by title only by Roger Spencer, second by Bob McAfee. Will the clerk read the title second time?
An ordinance amending Title II, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare, Chapter 240, Parks and Recreation, Article 2, Lakeside Park, by amending Section 240.170, Fishing Regulations for Lakeside Park, to allow catch and release fishing only and to prohibit harvesting fish in Lakeside Park.
Any further discussion, council?
Does the Codes Committee recommend this?
Yes.
Motion to put the ordinance on final passage by title only? Second.
Motion to move this ordinance forward by Holly Levine, second by Anita Francis. All those in favor signify to move this to a roll call vote. I guess you didn't get the electronic fixed. All to move this forward to a roll call vote, please signify by raising your right hand. 6 in affirmative, 2 absent.
Roger Spencer,
Yes.
Anita Francis,
Yes.
Bob McAfee,
Yes.
James Shanks,
Yes.
Holly Levine,
Yes.
Carol Wilford.
Yes.
Ordinance number,
2514.
thank you. Ordinance 7C, ordinance authorizing purchase of property.
Do we want to discuss or?
You need to make a motion first, then have the title, and she'll just, we go through discussion.
First reading by title only?
Second.
Motion to go through first reading by title only by Holly Bean, second by Roger Spencer. Will the clerk read the title?
An ordinance approving a contract for the sale of real estate between the City of Carl Junction, Missouri and Phoenix Management LP, authorizing the city to purchase a certain tract of land located at Gum Road and DeMott Drive, lying within Section 15, Township 28, Range 33, Jasper County, Missouri, and as more fully described in the legal description attached to this ordinance, authorizing the city to accept a warranty deed to said property from Phoenix Management LP, authorizing the payment of $1 million to purchase said property and to pay the sum of $10,000 as earnest money in accordance with the sale contract, authorizing the city to retain Kim Higdon of Charles Burt Realtors to assist the city to make the purchase in accordance with the compensation agreement attached to this ordinance, and authorizing the mayor and/or the city administrator and such other officers of the city as may be necessary to execute said contracts and such other documents as may be required to conclude said purchase.
Now, for discussion, council.
You want to start? You want me to start, Holly? Okay. This is the 32 1/3 acres at the corner of 171 and Gum Road that has just come up for sale. Planning and Zoning did have a hearing on this, and they are recommending approval. This is really the fulfillment of 20 years worth of the city's work in economic development to try to get property that could be developed commercially. One of the things that companies have always asked for is highway frontage. They want that traffic going by them to be able to do that. That was reinforced about 3 months ago by a company that was in town looking at property that said, yes, they were interested, but they really wanted the highway frontage again. In the meantime, this property came up for sale. Listed price was $1,150,000. Negotiated down to $1 million. It is a scary opportunity. It does have risks associated with it. It also has rewards in it. We take a lot of comments that we don't do enough for economic development, and those have been very consistent over years and years and years. This would allow us to take care of that type of issue that we hear from citizens. Technically, because the way our funds are divided up and the majority of our funds are very specific what they can be used for. You can't use water department funds for anything other than water. You can't use sewer department funds for anything other than sewer. The parks and stormwater is specifically for parks and stormwater. It has taken years and years worth of work to get the city into a financial position that this is even a possibility. Technically, we could do it. I am not willing to take that risk of depleting reserves, and I think that working with CBT on this, on a tax anticipation note, it makes it not only economical for us, but it makes it viable for us. And CBT has been a great partner of the city for years. I know Mary Beth, previous to Elena, and then Elena and I have worked very hard on the financial standing of the city. We carry a AA- rating with Standard & Poor's, which for a city of our size is excellent. There are very, very few cities our size that can carry that type of standing with Standard & Poor's. Along with Planning and Zoning's recommendation and my recommendation, and I'll let Holly talk about the Economic Development Committee's recommendation, but as far as I'm concerned, those two recommendations are that we approve this contract.
Yeah, so, we've been working with retail strategies for the past year, and we've really been going around town trying to identify properties that we can develop commercially. And it's really been a challenge. There's not a lot of properties, that are available. The ones that are, our big businesses are not interested in, a tiny little plot in between two houses on Cornell, unfortunately. So this, I think, is a really big opportunity for the city. This property is right along 171, like if you're heading towards Parks on the left-hand side before you get up to Parks. This property is almost 33 acres, and it can be annexed into the city right away. There is electric, there's water. The only thing that's not there is the gas, but we can get those utilities ran to this property. The property owner is not interested in splitting it up. So that was the first thing I tried to do, is get with those businesses that we were talking to, that wanted to move to town, but we couldn't find properties for them. But unfortunately they need, 2 acres, 3 acres, not 33 acres. So I think if we can obtain this property, we can get it ready for sale, make sure the utilities are good to go, and really market it to these companies that are interested in coming to town that have not had a home so far. There's so many opportunities with this property, and any businesses that develop their commercial, retail, whatever we can get in there, that's tax dollars right to our town. So our biggest issue, in my opinion, in our town, is that all of our tax dollars go outside of our town. So the way that our borders are, when we go up to Walmart, that's not in Carl Junction, that's in Airport Drive. And so a city budget is mostly made up of the sales tax dollars. So, when you are talking about funding the police, and we don't have any businesses that are paying into that sales tax, it makes it really difficult to make improvements and changes. So, so far we've got a couple businesses in town that do well, but just if we can get some more businesses and get our sales tax dollars to stay in town. You buy groceries, all that money goes somewhere else. It goes to airport, it goes to Joplin, it goes to Web City. You go to McDonald's, you go to, I love Gambino's, but you go to Gambino's, none of that money stays in Carl Junction. You go to Parks, that's not Carl Junction, and it stinks because we have 8,000 people, but we don't have anywhere to buy food. So we're just not getting that revenue that we could be. That you see, Web City is not that much bigger than us, but they have, hundreds of businesses that are funding their budget. So I think this is a big opportunity for the city. Obviously this is a lot of money, but I'm hoping that this is an investment into our, commercial development, business development, and we will see a great return on this.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What kind of comps did you do on this property?
There was 7 comps that were pulled on it. Price ranged anywhere from $25,000 up to $100,000 per acre. And it just depended on where that property was located that it was that high. So this comes out to somewhere in the neighborhood of $31,000 to $32,000 an acre for commercial property. Now those comps were not. Those comps were in a wider area because of the size of the property to be able to get those kind of comps. Carthage, Neosho, Joplin. I think they pulled one in Web City, but we had those 7 comps pulled on it. So this fits into that band of what they are already out there for sale.
And what's this going to cost us a month to finance this?
It will not be a monthly payment. It would be an annual payment. CBT and the way a tax anticipation note works is that you pay interest only, and then every year that we budget, we put in that interest only payment into the budget and you re-sign the note then every year. We certify that it's in the budget and that we're going to make it. At some point, probably when you get enough of it sold, you know, you get a balloon payment on it and you have to pay it off. Or you can transfer it to just an annual payment for the property. The balloon payment is what we did on the property that we bought in Briarbrook, the Lakeside Park, which was, how many acres was that? 85? That doesn't sound right.
95.
95. That's the exact same way that we did it with this. So you're looking at an interest rate of somewhere, we have not got that nailed down yet, somewhere between 4 and 6%. So, you know, on $1 million, you're looking at $40,000 in interest a year. Am I right? If I did that in my head. So.
Anything else, council? Any other discussion on this?
We're on second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer, go for second reading by title only, second by Carol Wolford. Will the clerk read the title for the second time, please?
An ordinance approving a contract for the sale of real estate between the City of Carl Junction, Missouri and Phoenix Management LP, authorizing the city to purchase a certain tract of land located at Gum Road and DeMott Drive, lying within Section 15, Township 28, Range 33, Jasper County, Missouri, and as more fully described in the legal description attached to this ordinance, authorizing the city to accept a warranty deed to said property from Phoenix Management LP, authorizing the payment of $1 million to purchase said property and to pay the sum of $10,000 as earnest money in accordance with the sale contract, authorizing the city to retain Kim Higdon of Charles Burt Realtors to assist the city to make the purchase in accordance with the compensation agreement attached to this ordinance, and authorizing the mayor and/or the city administrator and such other officers of the city as may be necessary to execute said contracts and such other documents as may be required to conclude said purchase.
Any further discussion, council?
Motion we put this ordinance on final passage?
Motion to put this ordinance on final passage by Holly Levine, second by Roger Spencer. This is a hand vote to go to a roll call vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 6 in affirmative, 2 absent.
Carol Wolford.
Yes.
Holly Levine.
Yes.
James Shanks.
Yes.
Bob McAfee.
Yes.
Anita Francis.
Yes.
Roger Spencer.
Yes.
Ordinance number
2515.
number 8. 8A is long-term reports. I guess that falls under Mr. Lawler.
Apologize for the brevity of the reports. I took a couple of vacation days last week. Any questions on what is there?
I've got not a question, but the sunshades in Center Creek Park, last night part of them were destroyed by the wind. Have you had anybody turn that in yet?
No, I have not heard that, so.
Center Creek Park, the pickleball, the sunshades.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know how much, but from my house, I can see that there's the north side, the bottom panel looks like it's gone. I don't know about the top panels or the rest of them.
Get it checked out.
I've got a question. Out at Country Club, did they fill any dirt in there?
Yes, they did. They took several loads in there. They also mulched everything or ground everything up into it.
Okay, so it's all seeded.
Yes, it has been hydro seeded too. Hopefully that didn't go out there and look. That rain that we got, hopefully it didn't wash away that hydro seed.
Paving on the splash pad, Steve, have we started that yet, or is that future?
Yes, it's up and running.
That's up and running, okay. Any questions of the report, council?
What's our status on the Wi-Fi system for the parks? As of right now?
We are waiting on Dr. Pyle, myself, and Adam Davenport to have a meeting on it. We have not been able to make a connection. We have to get all three of us at the same time.
Anything else, council, of the city administrator's report? Steve, do you have anything to add or highlight on that report?
I do not.
Treasurer's report.
And just to let you know, at the next meeting, I will have the annual report. Mary Beth already has that ready. Great, so I'll do it at the next meeting.
Any question of that report? Department reports. First one in front of me is the police department. Chief, you have anything to add or talk about on your report?
I don't think so.
Seems like we've seen some action lately.
Do what?
Seems like we've seen some action lately.
Yeah.
Council, any questions of the police department report? Moving on, Public Works. Jay, anything to add or subtract to your report?
I have nothing.
Council, any questions of Jay?
How's the irrigation hose? The,
Haven't got the parts yet.
okay.
Jay, I had a guy comment on your ditching that 500 feet on Summit. They really appreciated it. Thank you. Next department report is building inspector. Any council have any questions of that report? Moving on. Number 9, unfinished business. I'll start with you, Anita. You got any unfinished business?
No, sir.
Holly?
No, sir.
Yes,
Bob?
I was just wondering, we were doing some stuff to the pool to see if it'll hold water, how'd that go?
We kind of got sidetracked a little bit. Jay got behind, but we're ready to get that started and figured out.
Anything else, Bob?
Nope.
Nothing.
Roger, nothing? I have nothing. Carol?
No, sir.
James?
I would be remiss if I did not mention our ditch project for 2 different people that we mentioned last meeting, over there on Second Ave. Mr. Bell particularly. I'm gonna throw that in there every meeting because he's gonna call me every day. So put that out there.
Anything else?
So,
Mr. Talley?
No, Mayor.
Unfinished old business? Elena?
No, sir.
Crystal?
No, sir.
Steve?
I have one item I told you I'd get back to you with, what Myrma had said about the solar arrays, whether we demolish them or fix them. If we're not wanting to complete repairs on them, then Myrma will reimburse us the lesser of actual cost value for repairs to it, or the cost to completely tear down and disassemble, and that would be minus the deductible also. But they will pay for either way, whichever you guys decide to do with those solar arrays. So keep that in mind. I will be asking you after we do bid openings, hopefully the first meeting in June. On the repairs, what you want to do with those 2 solar arrays.
Anything?
Is it worth fixing something that's old and doesn't work?
I don't believe so.
Anything else, Steve, on unfinished business?
No, sir.
Chief, any unfinished business?
Nope.
Jay?
No, sir.
New business? James?
None.
Carol?
I have a question, I'm not even sure which department it would go to. On Briarbrook Drive, when you're going north, when you get to the first speed limit sign that says 20 miles an hour, used to you went about a block and a half, I think it's to Fairway, and the sign changed back to 30 miles an hour. Now both signs say 20 miles an hour, and it never does give a sign that says the speed limit goes back up to 30.
Is that temporary sign that was put in
The
there?
temporary sign that says 20,
Right.
but the one up further on down did say 30, but it's been taken out and replaced with another one that says 20.
I think
Yeah, I
we
think they
changed
did.
on Briarbrook Drive to
Made that
20.
permanently 20 miles an hour through there.
It never does show where it goes back up to 30.
Okay. Probably on, once you turn left on Briarbrook is when it was picked back up. Or Fairway.
Or when I get rear-ended, and I'm the only one that goes 20 right there.
Anything else, Carol, under new business?
No, that was all.
I have none. Roger?
No new business.
Bob?
Go.
Holly?
Yeah, I just wanted to take a quick moment while everybody's here to give an update on the farmer's market. It's been going extremely well. We're at Thursday evenings, 4 to 7 at the Lakeside Pavilion, which is right next door to Briarbrook. We got a lot of great items. It's been going really well for all of our vendors, and I think it's just a great thing to bring to town to provide that nutritious food and local items to our citizens. And it's really been a great community spot. A lot of people meeting up and hanging out, going to the playground, they're while their kids play soccer. I think it's been really great for our community. Love for you guys all to check that out. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Anita, new business? Mr. Talley, new business?
No, Mayor.
Elena?
No, sir.
Crystal? Steve?
No, sir.
Chief?
Nope.
Jay?
Nothing.
If there's no further business before the council, may we,
You missed one.
what did I miss?
Committee report.
Committee, yep, I sure did, I crossed it off. Let's back up, I did, thank you, Roger, I jumped. That's old age for you. Sorry about that. Budget and Finance, Walter Hayes is chair, but Holly, would you wish to speak on budget and finance?
No, nothing at this time.
Code and Nuisance, Carol Wolford, chair.
I have something I want to discuss, but at a later date. We haven't had time to work on a public forum statement yet.
Okay. Human Resources, Roger Spencer.
Yes, we had a meeting at 6:30 tonight and over the handbook and the evaluation sheets. The handbook, we found a few discrepancies in it, and we're gonna have them fixed and we'll come back with it. But on the employee evaluation, we're gonna do away with it. We're not gonna do that one, but on the evaluation report for the city administrator, we're gonna adopt it, or we'd like to adopt it, and with a few changes made to it, like the day it was brought into effect.
Can I ask why you didn't want to do the city employees? Because usually your performance of your employees is based on a evaluation.
That's true, but you're doing it by department, and the chief can answer one part of it on the evaluation of the employees.
So, had a couple of seminars I've gone to over Officers' Bill of Rights and stuff like that. One was put on by the Lauder Law Firm, in which they spoke against doing evaluations, especially because of the Officers' Bill of Rights. Because anytime any action is taken in regards to an employee in which they feel their pay may be affected, whether it's pay, whether it's shift assignments, whether it's demotions, termination, or anything, then it opens up the Officers' Bill of Rights, and you have all the rules and regulations that go with that. And their opinion is that evaluations opens the city up to liability on that issue.
Thank you, that answers my question there.
And just to follow up on that, we had that seminar several weeks ago. To confirm that, I did send an email to the president, owner of Lauber Law Firm yesterday, asking for clarification on that. And he again referred me back to the special attorney, Todd Smith, in reference to that, who again reiterated the same thing, that it opens the city up to liability.
Holly, did you have something to?
Yeah, just real quick, I'm not on that committee, but I know the police officers' bill of rights ties our hands a lot, but I do not agree with that about the employee evaluations. Last year during our budget talks, we, had a lot of discussions with the employees about raises, and I thought it was extremely unfair at the time that our employees that, everybody's complaining about them, they're not doing a good job, whatever, we've got the same raise as somebody that may busting their butt at work every single day. So I don't agree with that. I believe that we should be giving merit raises. We should not be giving blanket raises across the board for our employees. I think it's extremely difficult to have an employee and you're not having these evaluations with them to tell them, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and then they have no idea. They don't know. And then, we're expecting them to do this job, but they don't know they're not doing it properly. We have to be having these conversations. We need this evaluation process, I believe, to give raises, to make sure people are held accountable and they're doing their jobs. And if there's somebody that should not be employed by the city, that needs to be documented so that we have those examples of them not doing their job. So when the time comes, we can take that action. I've sat in meetings in this building where we've said, this person isn't doing a good job, we can't fire them. Okay, so I don't agree with that.
I've come from a union company. I went to work for another company that believed in evaluations yearly, performance evaluation, and even a performance evaluation thrown in. If you did something that exceeded or something, there was a little bit of monetary reward for that. But I understand about the police department. The other departments is one I would raise that
Well, the
concern.
other thing of it is I think Chief brought it up too, that like street department, if you start doing them that way, they're gonna say, hey, they're not doing these guys like that. So, you're gonna have a conflict there of everything. And the chief does his people, Jay does his.
Okay.
And if they get anything that's not right, we hear about it. Or Steve hears about it anyway. And then I hear about it, and then we all hear about it.
Well, people need to be adults and realize that that's how the world works.
Yeah.
Okay, some people get raises for doing a good job and some people don't do a good job.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah, I agree with Holly. I will say, I'm a federal employee, and here's a fun fact about that. After federal employees leave the government to go work somewhere else, when that next employer calls us, we are allowed to say the dates they were employed by us. And I mean, not another word. We say these are the dates they were employed, and that is because of the liability and maybe just the nature of the way things are. Right or wrong, it is what it is. I don't know an alternative. I think people do deserve feedback, 100%. As Holly said, they don't know if they're doing a bad job unless you tell them. Maybe it does not have to be related necessarily directly to pay. Maybe there's another measure we could use. But I do know that the liability is out there. People can sue for anything. And particularly when it's opinion based, right? You can say, well, this person wasn't a good employee. Well, based on what? Well, I didn't think they did a very good job. Well, who is
Based on the employee handbook. If we have concrete examples of what their job is and their job description, and they're not doing that.
Oh, I agree, 100%. And maybe that's a good way to determine whether you're gonna terminate somebody or not, because you better have, you know, your ducks in a row. Yearly raises, I think that's so very subjective. You alluded to the point where maybe one employee got 4 complaints. This employee only got 2 complaints. But we know the employee who got the 4 complaints, the person that complains about everything all the time, they just so happen to be complaining about them today.
This would be a complete evaluation process. Like, I wanna know if somebody is skipping work. Maybe they take a 2-hour lunch every day. You know, this is a complete evaluation process.
Yeah, I understand. But if somebody skips lunch twice versus somebody or goes over on their lunch twice in a year versus somebody who goes over on lunch 3 times in a year, does one get a raise and the other one not?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what you get into.
I think this has already been
So
discussed.
that's a reason not to do it at all?
Not saying that. I'm just saying that's why this is a problem.
This has already been discussed by the Human Resources, and that's the decision they come up with. Thank you for your comments and your questions. I think they are helpful. But they've already made, it seems like they've already made their decision. We're moving on. Public facilities. Dr. Pyle, he's not here tonight. They had a school board meeting that they moved to tonight from last night because of the storm. Holly, you're on Public Facilities and Planning Committee. Is there anything there that you wish to discuss since you're on that committee too?
The only thing, we just seated at Country Club, so I'll go by and check on that, make sure that looks good to go. Everything looks great out at Lakeside. The car path, the sidewalks look excellent. The grass is growing in that little spot. Everything's going great. That's all I've got on that.
Okay, shift gears here. You're the chair of the Economic Development. Any report there?
Yeah, so we approved this purchase of the property today, and I hope that is a real catalyst for us to get some businesses coming to town. I'm going to get working on that right away to reach out to the businesses that we have been talking to.
Thank you. Is there any further business before the council? If not, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So be it.
Second.
Motion by Roger Spencer, second by Holly Levine. All those in favor of adjourning, please raise your right hand. 6 in affirmative,